Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing another product review, and today I'm going to be reviewing Arteza watercolor brushes. Now they did send me a lot of other supplies. They sent me the brushes, which are a weird mixture between watercolor and markers, which I'm going to be focusing on these materials for the most of the video. They also sent me some aqua brushes, 3 in flat and 3 in round brushes. They sent me some watercolor pencils, and they also sent me a watercolor sketch pad. So this is some color swatches that I did for the markers, and these are the markers themselves, and I'm going to do a little bit of a demo just to show you guys how they work. Basically, they're a marker that has watercolor based ink inside of them. It's kind of weird, and it takes some getting used to kind of figure out how these markers worked. But basically what you do is you lay down the pigment and then you activate it with water. So you can see me doing that right now. And when you activate it with water, it turns more into a watercolor-like substance, and then you can kind of play around with that. But these are, all in all, I will say that these are really fun markers, and I really enjoyed working with them, and I really like them. I will be using these in my main art supplies from now on. I do want to play more with them and see how far I can push them and see what other stuff I can do with them, but I really enjoyed these markers. The other supplies worked pretty well, pretty good as well. The aqua brushes were pretty nice. They're really reasonable priced, and you get 6 of them in different sizes, and they hold a ton of water. Like, I did not have to refill a single time working on this piece, so that was pretty awesome. These are a great replacement for the Aquash pens, because I know those can be pretty pricey, and these are way more affordable. The markers themselves are also pretty affordable, and you get 48 in a pack. So those are pretty price affordable as well. And then the watercolor pencils and the watercolor sketch pad both worked pretty well. The paper didn't really buckle. I didn't use that much paper or that much water with them, but the paper still held up pretty nicely. And the watercolor pencils are pretty standard watercolor pencils. They are woodless, so they're really nice to hold, but there wasn't anything too special about them. They're just pretty nice standard watercolor pencils. So anyway, here I am. This is actually a real quick real-time demo of me using these markers. I wanted to show you guys what they were like in real time before I get into the speed paint, but don't worry, there is a speed paint coming. But I just wanted to show you guys how these kind of react with each other. Like I said, it definitely took some getting used to, and I'm still experimenting with them and seeing what they can do. But when you put 2 colors close to each other, they react in, it's kind of weird because they blend a little bit before you put the water down, but when you add the water, they just like kind of explode. And it's really interesting the kind of textures that you can get with these. That's one of the things I love most about them. They're very unpredictable, which can be, you know, hard to work with at times. But that also means that you get some really interesting reactions too that you wouldn't normally get if you could plan. So I really like that about these markers, that they're unpredictable, but they come out with some really interesting shapes and textures, which I really appreciate. Okay, so now I want to go into the pros and cons of these specific markers. Like I said, all in all, I do recommend them. I do really like them. I am going to be using them more often, but there are some things that I wish could be done better. So I'm going to go over the cons first before I get into the really big pros. And there weren't a whole lot of downsides to these markers. They're just some things that, as an artist, I feel should be addressed. So the number one thing that I had a problem with these markers, they were not numbered, which is kind of an issue, especially when you have so many. You have 48 different colors, and none of them are numbered. So what I had to do is I had to make a color sheet, which you saw at the beginning of this video, and I had to keep referring to those, and I actually numbered the color swatches and then numbered the markers myself so that I would have a reference so I could go back and see what color was which marker. So It's not a huge problem. It's more of just like a minor inconvenience, but I would love to see the company maybe address it in the future. Another con was that this is actually kind of common with watercolors as well, but it's just a little bit more prominent with these markers. The color dries a different color than when you put down. So you can kind of see it already here. When you first activate the color looks brown. But when it dries, you can see in her face especially, it dries more of a red brown. So that's just something I saw with the markers. The color that you put down as it dries, it kind of just morphs into a slightly different color. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're using these. Again, it wasn't a huge drawback. It didn't ruin the piece or anything. The color wasn't like hugely different. It wasn't like that big of a problem, but it is something to keep in mind, and it is something that's a bit of a drawback. Another slight problem was when you put down a mark on the paper, and this actually depends on what paper you used. I didn't have this problem when I used the markers with the paper that they provided me, but I did have this problem in my own mixed media sketchbook. So the problem is when you lay down a mark and then you put down the water on top of it, the mark was still visible. So no matter how hard I tried to like blend the mark out, the initial mark where I put down the ink, it didn't quite blend out all the way, and you could see where I put down that initial marker like swatch. So like I said, that wasn't a problem with this piece because using a watercolor paper fixed that issue. So I would just recommend, if you're going to be doing a large piece or something with these markers, definitely use the proper paper, otherwise you might just have some more issues with it. So now I do want to go over the pros. Now that I'm done pointing out the negative things, I will say that the positives far outweighed the negatives, and I really enjoyed working with these markers. The first positive, you will see these colors are crazy bright. They're so pigmented, they're so vibrant. They're really something that I haven't seen with watercolors before. Watercolors generally as a medium are pretty soft and pastel, and I really enjoy that about watercolors, but using these markers was so different because the colors you get with these are just so wildly bright, and it was so much fun to work with because I don't make bright artworks all the time, and it was just really fun. I really just kind of went wild with the colors, and it was a blast to work with. I will say that when you use too many bright colors, it can kind of be overwhelming. So in the future, I do want to use these in my main art supplies, but I don't think I will make another piece using solely these markers. That's what I did with this piece. I only used these markers even for outlining, and in the future I think I will definitely use these just for when I need that bright color, because the color really just I cannot get these kind of colors with regular watercolors, and that's why I wanted to make her skin dark and her hair dark, especially with the dark brown and the black, because it's just so hard to get that with watercolors, and I got that so easily with these markers. So that was super awesome. Another plus is that these have a brush nib. I really enjoyed that. It makes it easier to get into tight spaces, and you can kind of blend with the markers before you blend with the water. So that is very nice. And another good thing is they don't really bleed. With markers, it's always a hit or miss whether or not it's going to bleed onto the other side. But like I said, I was using these, excuse me, I was using these in my mixed media sketchbook, and they didn't bleed to the other side at all. Like I even did some of the darkest blacks and browns, and it didn't bleed at all. So that was a really pleasant surprise, because usually that kind of stuff really bleeds. So yeah, all in all, like I said, I really had fun with these markers. They're just a blast. They're just like so different from any other art supply I've used before. They're just fun, and I really like them. Plus, I'm really excited to see how far I can push them, and like the different colors I can now incorporate into some of my artworks, because like I mentioned, especially the watercolor set I have, it's just really light, and I'm just excited to push my own boundaries with color, and these markers are definitely going to help me do that. So thank you very much to Arteza, who is the company that sells these. I will have all of their information in the description box below. Please go check them out. I highly recommend their products. Like I mentioned, the water brushes worked perfectly. I have absolutely no complaints about the water brushes. The paper was really nice. It didn't come apart with the water. It didn't really buckle too badly. I'm very excited to have a whole bunch of new paper on my hands. And the watercolor pencils worked really well as well. So I just wanted to focus on these markers because they're so different, and I figured none of you have used them before, but I highly recommend them. Highly, highly recommend them. If you want to go get yourself a set, you can do so with the link below. Christmas is coming up. I know I said that in my last review, but just another hint, if you're more of a traditional artist, these are a great gift idea because they're just very, very fun. Anyway, that was my review. I hope you guys enjoyed this painting. Like I said, it was really, really fun to make with all these crazy colors, and I love drawing hummingbirds. I love hummingbirds in general, so I figured it would be really great to test the colors with such a brightly colored bird. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy. Please go check out Arteza and show them some love, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys!